People talk about style versus substance a lot, and I think they're really missing the mark most of the time. I hear some people talk as if style is a thing that's permissible as long as it doesn't get in the way of telling the story. Like, it's a fun addition that you can get around to if you finish the important things first. Other people will concede that style is good so long as it supports the story. I think this isn't terrible, but it still really limits what a creative group of artists can accomplish. I don't think style is just an accessory. I think style is how you tell the story, and sometimes style is the story. I can hardly think of a better example of this than Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I had high hopes going into it because I really enjoyed the first one, and it blew my expectations out of the water. As soon as I saw the movie, I knew that it was the perfect example of good stylization. And boy, does this movie have style. It takes everything awesome about the first film and dials it up to 10. In this one, each iteration of Spider-Man, or woman, comes from a different universe with a completely different aesthetic. In the weeks since it came out, I've seen tons of people praising it for being pretty and unique, but is that all it accomplishes? Is the style of Across the Spider-Verse simply pretty and fun? Let's look at a scene in the movie that highlights the power of its style. As a quick disclaimer, I'm really excited to talk about this film, and I didn't want to wait, but since it just came out, I can't really access a ton of footage from the film to show you. I'll try to show as much as I can when I'm talking about it, and if you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen the film, don't worry, I'll be as descriptive as possible without any major spoilers. The moment I knew this movie was a game changer was the scene when Gwen, Spider-Woman, and her father, Captain Stacy, have a big confrontation. It's only a few minutes into the film. Captain Stacy wants to arrest Spider-Woman because he thinks she killed Peter Parker. Gwen has just defeated the Vulture and her dad gets her at gunpoint. Without any alternatives, she reveals her identity. It's an incredibly dramatic moment where two family members are trying to understand each other while also feeling hurt and betrayed. While they're talking, the background goes fully abstract, like a watercolor where the paint all drips down until there's just vague splotches of color. Yes, this moment is pretty, but it's doing a lot more than that. This is an incredibly tense interaction. There's so much emotion and drama. The first time watching the film, I was fully pulled into the moment. But the second time I watched it, I had a realization. Imagine the scene if it looked like a standard Disney or DreamWorks animated film. It would feel over the top, melodramatic, and even cringy. Now, I don't say this to rip on the writing or performances, I think they're really good. But I do think that it's really hard to pull off this level of intensity. Sometimes when a scene like this is too realistic, it feels intrusive. Imagine for a second that you're at your friend's house and their parent or partner walks into the room and they start fighting right in front of you. It might be really awkward for you and you would avert your eyes and try not to listen. The reality of what's happening is overwhelming to the point that you might not be able to empathize and connect and think about what they're saying. In a film, we're able to watch these kinds of interactions with a level of detachment since we know it's not real. And with more overt stylization like we see in this scene, that detachment is heightening the sensations to a point where we're able to engage without being overwhelmed. In a paradoxical way, the style is so much that we're slightly detached, but it's just enough detachment that allows us to lose ourselves in the scene without being overwhelmed. The idea of stylized detachment isn't often talked about in film, but I think it's really prevalent in some popular films. Another really good example of this is Jojo Rabbit. This is a film dealing with really heavy subjects and historical moments. I think people were afraid that it would use humor to undermine those important issues, but rather I think it uses humor to allow us to engage with these important issues. The ideas and prejudices that Jojo is exposed to are at once so absurd and terrifying that humor is the only tool that addresses it without giving it more attention than it deserves. The version of this story that strives for realism could be too gruesome for people to actually engage, but the humor allows us to be present and witness that it is terrible. The stylization of dark, absurd humor detaches us enough that we're able to engage with what would otherwise overwhelm us. Obviously, the example of Jojo Rabbit is dealing with much more serious content, but the idea holds true for all kinds of films. Whether dealing with content too upsetting or too awkward or anything in between, a strong stylization helps us watch things that we couldn't normally handle. Of course, not all stylization is used for this purpose, and sometimes gritty realism is the goal. But watch out for this and you'll realize that lots of films use this technique of detachment through strong stylization. So going back to Across the Spider-Verse, it's an awesome movie with killer action and comedy and drama. It's obvious that everyone involved with the project gave their all and were rewarded with an incredibly creative, fun, and moving film. The style is original and beautiful, but more than that, it allows us to totally lose ourselves in the Spider-Verse. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.